Okay. The government, the state government is by the people and for the people. Okay. If the police is stepping in the temple, they want all the people to go worship gods. If something or somebody is prohibiting people from entering the public place, the government has to step in. The government machinery in the name of police, they have to step in. This is the process. If you do not understand the process, go read Indian Constitution.
All
go
right,
read
so
what is democracy.
Maybe I'm terribly
Obviously,
ignorant.
police will enter.
Let me actually bring in
you here.
who has extensively read the Indian Constitution.
The Nataraja temple for sure.
J SAI Deepak, respond to this.
First, no person was stopped from worshipping in the temple. There is a specific altar which the Dikshitars have prohibited the devotees, regardless of their caste, from stepping into the picture because it becomes difficult for them to manage this particular temple. Please note that the Chidambaram temple has been under attack for close to 4 decades from Dravidinist hooligans and their governments, simply because they see this as a Brahminical institution, as a consequence of which they are repeatedly trying to violate the constitutionally guaranteed fundamental rights of denominational freedom to Podu Dikshitars. Please note that in 2014 rather, 6th of December 2014 or perhaps January 2014, in Subramania Swamy versus Union of India, or rather state of Tamil Nadu specifically, the Supreme Court has categorically held that there are repeated attempts on the part of the state government to take over this particular institution despite its rights under Article 26 of a denominational institution. So when someone says, don't people have the right to enter the particular temple? Of course they do. But since it is a denominational temple with rights under Article 26, people will enter the temple only subject to the rules laid down by the Podu Dikshitars. That cannot be taken away. This right is equally available to temples where non-Brahmin priests are appointed. So if someone says, assume for a moment if a Brahmin were to enter a non-Brahmin governed temple to say, I am a Brahmin, I have the right of superiority, I must be given primacy of worship, I must have the right to enter the sanctum sanctorum and in places where others are not permitted, even that would be equally violative of the rights of that particular temple and the people who govern that particular temple. So this Dravidinist argument, which is being made by this person in the panel, is fundamentally stupid. It is anti-Brahmin, it is anti-Hindu, and it goes against every grain of the Constitution. I'm happy to quote chapter and verse from the Constitution and judgments of the Supreme Court to this person who seems to be legally illiterate.
All right, respond. Vikraman. And then Mr. Saravanan also wants to come in. Yes.
Okay, legally literate person. I don't know who that nameless person is. I want to remind him, even if it is mentioned in Supreme Court judgment, we will go against the judgment because it is against Constitution. It is against Constitution, man.
This is
you should let everybody go enter. The sanctum sanctorum, everybody, every Hindu, SC, ST, OBC, everybody from Chettiar, Nadar, Naidu, Mudaliar, Tevar, Kallar, Maravar, everybody, Yadavar, Pallar, Parayar, everybody, Arundadir, everybody should enter sanctum sanctorum of this temple. Why is this temple so special?
No, hold on a second. Mr. Vikraman, are you sitting on national television and you are saying we will go against the Supreme Court judgment?
I'm talking about equality.
Are you saying that you will violate a Supreme Court judgment because you think you can?
Temple? Why only Dikshitars should come in?
In a temple, the priest and the rules are supreme. Whether the priest is a Brahmin or non-Brahmin doesn't make a difference. Sanctum sanctorum is not open for every person. The sanctum sanctorum is open only for the priest, even if it happens to be a non-Brahmin priest.
Okay, but can I come in? Can I come in? Can I come in?
No, you cannot. Just for a minute. This DMK government has insisted on prayers in Hindu institutions alone to be conducted in Tamil, but they don't have the gall, the gumption, and the guts to impose these rules when it comes to masjids or to Christian institutions. This is the nature of this particular government. This is the nature of Dravidism.
Okay, here I have to answer. But I have to answer.
No, I'm so sorry. Their encroachment is reserved only to Hindu institutions. This is a position that they have taken since 1917, ever since this damned movement has started. So this is a fundamentally anti-Hindu movement, which is nothing but...
Okay, wait, now Mr. Saravanan wants to answer. Lawyer to lawyer, it's anti-Hindu, anti-Brahmin, anti-religious practices. Yes. Mr. Saravanan.
Yes, Padmaja, who is this Hindutva gun who's coming here and preaching law to us?
Okay.
He thinks he's superior because
Padmaja, are you going to allow this?
Are we going to now descend into name calling, sir? Let me introduce both of you to each other. Mr. Saravanan, you are spokesperson of DMK. J SAI Deepak is a senior advocate. Let's please be respectful and civilized to each other. and refer to each other by our identities. Go on.
He has to extend that courtesy first. He has to extend that courtesy first. He will get what he hopes.
Was directed at a specific
we had
the
the President of India, the first citizen of this country, the President of this country. Sir, when you abused, we were listening.
Okay, one at a time. I'm going to take 10 seconds. I'm going to take 10 seconds time out, Mr. Saravanan. Please come to the point. The simple allegation is that this is not about 4 days. This is not about restrictions. This is about a grand plan. And Mr. Shekhar Babu himself has said that we will ensure that we take over the administration of the Chidambaram temple. He's made no bones about it. He said it on record.
Yes, Padmaja, BJP is a party for the upper caste Hindus, of the upper caste Hindus, by the upper caste Hindus. We had the first citizen of this country stand outside. We had Mr. Ashwini Vaishnav.
Chidambaram temple is about the devotees and their rights. It's not about the BJP or you.
I'm talking about caste discrimination. I'm talking about caste discrimination.
What caste discrimination happened yesterday?
Can go inside the temple, touch the... This is caste discrimination. What else is this? Why would you stop the first citizen of this country? This happened to Ramnath Kovind. And here we have this gentleman coming and talking about so many things. We are a party, the BJP is a party which is anti-Hindu.
Sir, this was about regulation of the crowd. That is it, for 4 days. If they had to discriminate, okay, Sai Deepak respond. It's come down to caste now. Okay, hold on a second. 2 specific points, J Sai Deepak. 1, this discrimination was done caste specific, and 2, Mr. Saravanan says, while the running of the temple and the rituals may be the right of the priests, law and order and crowd control is the job of the state government and the police, which is why they intervened.
3 responses. If somebody has a problem with the Supreme Court's verdict of 2014, it's 2023. The DMK has been in power for quite some time. They've not done anything to seek a review of that particular judgment. Let them go and knock the doors of the Supreme Court before they make statements on a public platform like this. Point number 2. Mr. Shekhar Babu has made it abundantly clear that the intention is to take over the temple, and therefore this is nothing but an excuse that has been created. 3. The restriction with respect to that particular platform within the temple is regardless of caste. It means that except for the priest, nobody is allowed on that particular place, primarily because of crowd control. And please understand, when someone says crowd control is entirely within the domain of secular affairs, they don't realize the fact that this is a denominational temple which has very specific rights over management even of its secular affairs under Article 26. This is a finding of the Supreme Court in the context of the Chidambaram temple, which has not been dislodged so far. 4, the DMK, considering the atrocities that are committed on the SCs and STs by the people who populate the DMK and its constituents, certainly does not have the moral authority to pontificate to anyone about caste discrimination. Foisting the BJP in this particular picture has absolutely no basis. The BJP is irrelevant to this particular equation. In fact, the BJP too is equally guilty of taking control of temples of Hindu institutions across the board. So let me actually call out this nonsense for a moment. Congress, BJP, DMK, TDP, TRS, every party in this country is equally guilty of taking charge of Hindu institutions. So the BJP is equally guilty. No person on this panel who wants to bring up the BJP as a protector of Hindu interests can actually make that particular case in the context of temple control, because in every state, including in Karnataka, they made the statement that they will actually withdraw their control, but ultimately they gave up. They couldn't do so. The only place they did was in Uttarakhand, that too because 20% of the population revolted against the takeover of the temple by the Uttarakhand state government under the BJP. Until then, even the BJP did not relinquish control. So nobody is holding any brief for the BJP here. We are holding brief for Hindus and Hindu institutions. There's a difference between the BJP and the Hindus. Let it be very clear. There are any number of instances, reported instances, of the HRC department being hand in glove with smugglers and with state police officials, which the Madras High Court has actually commented upon and held in a judgment of July 2021. So I have not used or said anything which cannot be supported on the basis of facts. 2, there are reported instances, not just of child marriage, of child abuse going on in the religious institutions of other communities. What steps have been taken by the DMK government? would they have had the very same guts to actually allow the police to step into any of those institutions in full public glare with the media watching? Therefore, this is nothing but one of their anti-Brahmin, anti-Hindu shenanigans, and they constantly use the SC/ST Act as a weapon against this particular community. It's time somebody called this out. I'm calling this out. I'm so sorry to say, if there is one community that has actually suffered under the DMK, and this is contrary to popular perception, it's the Brahmins and the Dalits, because the Dalits are constantly violated by the DMK and their constituents and the Brahmins. Both these communities, this is a fact. Take a look at the history of their antecedents since 1917. This has been the case. Huts are tossed on a regular basis in constituencies where the DMK is in power, and those huts belong to SCs and STs. This is equally a fact. Let them counter me on facts on this particular issue, and I'm happy to take them in a public debate.
Okay, Mr. Vikraman, respond to this. Talking about caste discrimination, talking about atrocities on Dalits is nothing more than a fig leaf to launch this kind of attack, which, by the way, has come 1 full year after that alleged case of caste discrimination. 1 full year. Did you storm into the temple because somebody alleged that they had been subject to casteist slurs? Did you storm into the temple yesterday because a Dalit woman was stopped from doing darshan? No. That happened a year ago. Did you storm into the temple because a child marriage was happening yesterday? No. All of this has happened earlier. The matters are in the jurisdiction of the police, and yet you have no one reason for what the police did yesterday. This is a fig leaf, Mr. Vikraman.
Okay, this is a regular, regular propaganda that SC/ST Act is being misused, Dowry Prohibition Act is being misused.
Nobody is saying that. Nobody is saying it's being misused. All we're saying is unconnected to what happened yesterday.
Against, the vulnerable communities. It is again a vulnerable community. It is an attack on vulnerable communities by the media like you.
Sir,
like
again,
these acts are being misused.
This is a dog whistle that you are doing by completely misconstruing and misstating what I said. I have not for a second said that Dalits need to be discriminated against. What I am saying is that none of this explains what you did yesterday.
Simple question to you. Let me talk. You have given a lecture. I am a panelist. You are just an anchor. Listen to me.
That's okay. You're also just a panelist.
Lecture, okay? Okay, my simple question to the fellow panelist who said SC/ST Act being misused in this case is, was the Dalit woman being harassed or not in public? Was it in video? Was it in CCTV or not? Has he seen that video or not? Is child marriage happened in Chidambaram Nataraja temple or not? Has child marriage happened with Dikshidhar family or not? These are all facts.
If something happens in the family of the temple, of the priest, how is it connected to the management of the temple? Let him answer the question. If something happens in the family of the priest, how does that affect the management of the temple? What rights does it actually give the government to step into the particular picture? Second, as far as that SC/ST Act is concerned, they have to establish that a court is ultimately held that this was actually an instance of an atrocity being committed on SC/STs. That has not happened so far. So I am not going to actually say that this is either happened one way or the other until the court holds otherwise. When these people are bound to say that let the law take its own course, why don't they wait for it as opposed to actually using an unproved allegation to step into the picture? Clearly, this is nothing but a clear instance of a politically motivated action where the police wants to step into the picture, make an example out of a Hindu institution under the directions of an anti-Hindu DMK government. That is a fact.